Hello, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, I'm Charlie Tolhurst, and welcome to the Tonight Show podcast for today, the 29th of June. It's the last one of June. It's the last show of this month. Um, and yes, we can say the summer has properly kick-started now with lots of news from the past week, political news, also sport, business, show business, so much news to report from anywhere. We'll be rounding that up all tonight. I'm joined by Labour Party supporter Zach Chambers to round up all latest news. Hello, Zach.
Hi, Charlie. Hello, mate.
Well, we're going to start off with the news now. We're going to start off with the UK review of course, Parliament and also the news this week. Now, um, if we had Parliament this week, we had, of course, a review of what was happening with Keir Starmer grilling Rishi Sunak on multiple issues, including mortgage rates, the cost of living, and also about quite a few things as well, showing that can Sunak really lead the country at the moment during these difficult times. Now, what we've also seen this week as well has been, well, pretty much mortgage chaos for families again, but also as well, one of the biggest things that has been affecting UK households this week, of course, has in general been, well, lots of stuff. As you guys would know, of course, we start off with the issue of Rwanda being the main part of tonight's main story. It has been revealed that the Rwanda plan has been deemed unlawful by the Supreme Court here in the UK. UK court, the top highest court, deeming the plan unlawful. Suella Braverman spoke out tonight, criticising it. Zach, what do you make the Home Secretary's statement about this tonight?
Yes. First of all, I'll just give you a little correction, Charlie. It was the UK Appeals Court, Court of Appeals that deemed it unlawful by a 2-1 majority. They deemed it unlawful. The chief judge in this case actually decided to go in dissent and decided that it was lawful. But obviously, with it being a 2-1 majority, it means that the court rules it unlawful, the Rwanda policy unlawful, mainly because they felt like that Rwanda was not a safe third country to send refugees, asylum seekers, and migrants to, in pretty much basic terms. Yes, like I said, it was a 2-1 decision by the UK Court of Appeal. As well, obviously, like I said, the chief judge dissented and said something a little bit differently. He disagreed with the other two judges, but nevertheless, it's a bit of a blow this evening for the government. They've been going on about the fact that they want to send migrants to Rwanda, and this is their sort of main source for it. As well, we know now that the cost of it could come up to £1 billion per year potentially, given the fact that given the estimates of what the government, how much numbers the government want to get to Rwanda in terms of people being deported over to there, and that sort of thing as well. So this is a costly policy. It's been criticised at cost and merits, and now the courts have intervened to say, for now, this is unlawful and it shouldn't be happening. Now, this is obviously going to ruffle conservative circles. Some suggesting this even that it's the Blob that overturned this decision. Jake Berry saying that it's the establishment that that was basically overturning basically removing the Rwanda decision as well. I think another MP suggested that we should leave the ECHR, which has nothing to do with the European Union, by the way. We're not leaving the ECHR. Leaving the European Union didn't mean we leave the ECHR.
Stands for European Court of Human Rights.
That's something separate from the European Union that we're part of, regardless whether we're in it or not. As well, that's one suggestion. Rich Tice, especially on Facebook, Twitter, Facebook, is complaining about the decision, saying it was disgraceful. So you can know the views of right wingers and all that sort of thing as well. But this decision is going to get appealed probably to the Supreme Court. The government have announced that they intend to put an appeal to the Supreme Court. It's very possible that the government could win in the Supreme Court. and therefore the policy would be enacted officially. But for now, they do not have a Rwanda plan. It is still under court review, probably under court review, because an appeal, a Supreme Court appeal, will probably be lodged. It could go either way. The court justice could decide that it does. It's not a safe third country, and they could base it on the Court of Appeal. It could go. They could base it on the original High Court decision, which was actually it was a safe third country, and it was okay to do it there. Who knows? As well, we yet to wait and see. But there will be an appeal. Suella Braverman has confirmed that. Rishi Sunak has confirmed that as well. That there is an appeal. Just before that, in Prime Minister's questions this week on Wednesday, it was all about house building and mortgages and the cost, linking that to the cost of living. Keir Starmer has very much distanced himself, the Conservative Party, in terms of the policy on housing. Previously, before, the Conservatives set up a house building target and then decided to scrap it for whatever reason. In part, they blame Conservative Party members for the influence in deciding to scrap that mandatory house building targets. Keir Starmer has gone for a very different approach, and I think this is probably going to win over a few voters actually with the young. As well, that he wants to maintain house building targets and actually wants to build 300,000 homes per year. As well, that was his policy. He was using that policy to sort of influence Prime Minister's questions in many ways as well, link that to mortgage prices as well. And Rishi Sunak, really didn't have much for it, to be quite honest with you on that one. Seemed a bit. He said that Starmer said he seemed run out of ideas, seemed deflated and defeated. Well, it came across that, I'm afraid, for Sunak in Prime Minister's questions was the way he reacted and all that sort of thing as well. Resorted back to union bosses, union paymasters. It's sort of the last argument they have. It's a bit. It's the new but Jeremy Corbyn argument sort of thing that they used to do in the past, and I must say, it's not really working out for them, I have to say as well. The Conservatives don't really have an answer for that. Labour have been pretty good with the house building policy as well. There's issues with the fact that whether the Conservative NIMBYs, whether there is NIMBYs within their own Labour Party. I know Rupert Huck, especially one of them, especially proposing new improvements to buildings, basically currently as well, calling them basically why build ugly buildings. That's one that could be considered a bit of an NIMBY. There's also Lisa Nandy got in the neck for apparently opposing house building in her own Wigan constituency, proving that she may be some sort of NIMBY. I mean, they're legitimate questions for Labour to answer if they're going to adapt this non-NIMBY attitude. But it was house building pretty much. It was mortgage rates as well. That was on the focus. I mean, this is going to be somewhere where the Labour are going to really find themselves in. As well, it looks like they're going ahead with homeowner sort of voters that were traditionally Conservative now flocking to Labour in many ways as well. So this is a massive issue for the Conservatives. That mortgage rates are going up because of the Bank of England have raised interest rates, and that means that mortgage rates are going up. Although the deferral for mortgage payments have been left for 12 months now, which is good news, it still is a huge issue for the Conservatives in many ways. That that these prices are going up and they're causing big issues. So they're going on running on sloppy water for this, and I think that that Prime Minister's question sort of expose where they are in terms of where they are on mortgage rates and where they are on house building.
Well, I've just released the next section of parliamentary business. This was today. We had Penny Mordaunt in the Commons. The Commons will not sit. The House will next sit on the 3rd of July when we can confirm to you that the House returns with a very quiet. Look at that. I mean, is that part of government there for you? Oral questions at 2:20. Adjournment. That is Crime and Antisocial Behaviour Bill, West London. That is with Ruth Colbury, the Labour MP for Brentford and Isleworth, and Elliot Colburn, Conservative for Carsland and Wallington. E-petition 6000966 relating to approved mileage allowance payment rate. As well, Tuesday next week. What else is coming up on Tuesday? Sir Gavin Williamson is apparently back. Republic of Somaliland gets a nomination. And also energy questions, including net zero as well. That is actually a very important issue at the moment, net zero. There's been a lot of reports of net zero going away. And you know my views on net zero. I'm not going to talk about it on the show, but it is something that has been mentioned about. We know the Conservatives obviously want to be net zero by 2050. That's what the UK government want to aim by. But given what we saw today with Just Stop Oil's protest, going on a cricket field and then spray painting another building, I mean, how is that going to impact climate change? I don't know. So, yeah. I mean, Zach, before we move on, what did you make to their latest attempts to try and disrupt the public, Just Stop Oil?
Yeah, I mean, yesterday I saw this when I watched this live when this happened actually as well, yesterday because I was working from home. But Just Stop Oil decided to do their latest idiotic attempt to disrupt the public by deciding to invade a cricket field during the Ashes test yesterday, between England and Australia. And we had a few balls come in. Obviously, the first set of balls in the first over, and then some idiots from Just Stop Oil decide to go onto the field. Throw some spray, their stupid spray that they normally do when they you tell it's Just Stop Oil because they do their little throw their spray, invade the pitch, and make a show of themselves. Now Josh Buttler, I think it was as well, was probably the hero of the hour, deciding to actually physically remove an actual Just Stop Oil protester from the ground and into the hands of security. I have to say, an incredible. I know cricket is his sort of main sort of expertise, but he obviously trains well because managed to hold a protester and drag him off the field whilst he's making a fool of himself. Is another set of skills that Josh Buttler has. Well done. You're good. You're amazing. But nevertheless, I think it was stupid what we saw. Again, Just Stop Oil doing their silly little protesting. They're doing a cricket field, which probably makes up zero emissions alone. It's all it is a ball flying about. There's no massive oily engines that are used and everything like that as well. And they're making an idiocy out of themselves, quite frankly, by invading a cricket pitch, just for the sake of seeing their egos. There wasn't much of a delay, thankfully. Cricket continued on as normal, but still. What the bloody hell were they thinking? Today we also saw the spectacle of of Just Stop Oil protesters deciding to walk on the roads and then getting pelted by milk from another nearby member of the public, which I don't really blame them for, to be fair. I mean, they're moving, but
oh no,
they're still on the roads. I understand their right to protest. We have to say as well, if they move to the path, then I'd be fine with their protesting. But the fact they're on the road is pretty annoying as well, and they deserve to be pelted with milk. If there's anything, it is as well. It's what they deserve is a pelting of milk. Might upset some of the vegans, who knows? But in that instance, but nevertheless, their stunt yesterday was quite frankly idiotic, and was widely condemned, rightly so, because I'm all for the cause of trying to reduce emissions and fight climate change, but idiotic acts like that, like pelting, spray and everything like that onto the field, whilst shown off in an area where there's no emissions being sort of dealt with. It's just I couldn't believe it. It's just quite frankly embarrassing and awful to watch. Just idiots. They're quite frankly idiots, and whilst I support the cause, they're just idiots for the actions of it. They really are.
My advice to Just Stop Oil: stay away from Silverstone at the British Grand Prix next week. Please do not invade the track like you did last year. Because honestly, last year I was watching the first round, that Wellington Straight. Boom, they went in there, and after a first lap accident for Zhou Guanyu, I mean. Who, by the way, luckily survived the crash. They go on the track and boom, they disrupt a motor race, disrupting the Ashes test, a cricket match between England and Australia that we're probably now 1-0 down in. More on that later. But yeah, definitely something very weird. But this is a little video of a moped crashing through a Just Stop Oil sign as protests continue in London. Have a listen to this. thank you there for that video there. I just want to say, obviously, I do apologise for some of the language that was being used in that clip. Obviously, it was all expleted there. Unfortunately, the protest tactics by Justopol are idiotic and should stop immediately. Moving on now to the latest news. And we're going to go on to the Russian invasion of Ukraine now, where there has been a major missile strike in Kramatorsk the other day, where at least 12 people have reported dead. I am actually not sure if the actual number has probably going to be higher than that. And yeah, well, I mean, could I say that Kramatorsk has been hit again? I believe it was, I think, a cafe or somewhere. Got hit.
Was it something like
somewhere like that in Kramatorsk got hit by a missile. It was horrible. At least 56 people have been injured. It was a pizza restaurant. That was where it was.
Pizza restaurant.
Yeah, I mean, 56 people injured, 12 dead. I mean, that is a horrible war crime. And it's not just been that this week. The Wagner Group have been on the march in Moscow. In fact, nearly actually reaching Moscow. I thought, goodness me, bloodshed in Russia. Oh no, not more war. They ended up turning away. Obviously, I'm struggling to pronounce this guy's name. Isn't always easy. It is Vigali Prodokzin or something.
Yeah.
The leader of the Wagner Group has apparently said the other day, in quite an interesting turn of events, he wants to send kids to war. So certainly Zach, the Russian command doesn't seem very well organised at the moment, despite a horrifying missile attack for the Ukrainian population just the other day.
Yeah, they're still doing the usual war tactics, Russia are, with missile strikes on civilian targets, such as a pizza place, people having their lunch and living life out there in Kramatorsk, and then being hit with a missile because the Russians think some sort of Ukrainian army are hiding in there or something like that, when there's no evidence of so. It's absolutely disgusting. It's another war crime. It's another set of civilian casualties where lots of people get injured and a few dead as well. I feel sorry for those families who have had to suffer through that as well. It's another set of civilian targets that, unfortunately, that the Russians decided to do. Some of the Russians have claimed themselves that there wasn't targeting civilian targets, which was, if I put this bluntly, complete bollocks. But there we go. I mean, that's what they say. I mean, they obviously live in a different planet half the time than half of us anyway. But let's talk about the main event in Russia last week. And this has happened, just started after we sort of came off and everything like that as well, Charlie. But my goodness, what was happening in Russia on the Friday last week? Wow. And the Saturday as well, for a period of time. Wow. Vladimir Putin basically nearly lost his presidency last week in dramatic fashion. Prigozhin, the guy who runs the Wagner Group, basically, has actually helped Russia in this war in Ukraine, especially in Bakhmut, where they took over that place as well. Prigozhin has been on a little bit of a slanging match with some of the Russia commanders and Defense Minister Shoigu, who's currently the defense minister in Russia, but has received some little bit of criticism from that group as well. There was an alleged looked like a bombing in where Wagner Boost was based in the forest at the moment. That actually angered Prigozhin because it looked like it came from Russians themselves, and he got so angry, so angry that he gathered his Wagner Group army. He then went up, gathered them up, then started taking over one of the main Russian military bases within Russia themselves, and nearly then started a march on their way to Moscow in such dramatic fashion as well. It was really quite something to watch what was going on actually in Russia overall. It was actually pretty shocking and surprising what was happening as well. I have to say it was it wasn't something like that as well. What we were expecting in many ways as well, but nevertheless, there was events that was definitely happening in Russia as well that was surprising to everybody, and the US sort of started getting attention about this just before it was about to happen, but still, nevertheless, it nearly didn't.
Sorry, guys, we've had some technical difficulties there. I do apologise. Unfortunately, Zach has had some technical issues. Oh dear. Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, Zach, my friend Zach, has had some technical issues on his end there. So I do apologise for that at the moment. Obviously, as we were mentioning, yeah, the Wagner Group did march along Moscow towards the towards where President Putin's office is in the Kremlin. Very luckily, they turned away, and there was no bloodshed. I'm just going to invite Zach back on now.
My computer, my internet went plop. Well, my browser decided to explode. But yeah, basically, what I was saying is, yeah, the Wagner decided to do after that little incident, decided to need to try and attempt an uprising. And yeah, they got as far, and I think it was Rostcheks there was at first, or somewhere near there actually. It was one of the Russian areas where they had a big military base, as well. And they got, so far up, they started their march onto there, and they were, I think, at one point about 150 miles away from Moscow at one point, to the point where they had to the security forces had to shut all the roads leading up to Moscow, including the M4, as well. It was very dramatic. They put all the military guards out there and everything like that as well. I mean, it looked like an uprising was about to happen. And then Putin then ordered Lukashenko to start negotiating with Prigozhin as well. And yeah, this little effort to sort of overthrow the government failed because Lukashenko broke some sort of deal with Sorokin, which meant that he would go to Belarus and live over there rather than annoying the Russian business as well. Now, there was charges nearly thrown at Prigozhin and his Wagner Group crew, and then they got dropped. And then Vladimir Putin did his sort of address to the nation sort of thing when he sort of suggested it was going to go back on again, and then it was dropped again. Now, looking at the events of last week as well, and basing it on what happened, it really does look like there was a genuine potential unsettlement of Putin's leadership, where he has a firm grip on leadership in Russia and everything as well. And it looked like he was about to lose it. It generally was as well. So there was some really severe issues. There was nearly this uprising by the Wagner Group. And they nearly took out Putin. But then Lukashenko sort of got involved. They negotiated. And this uprising failed 24 hours later. It was just the sight of someone nearly being overthrown, though, was astonishing. The fact that Sorokin nearly managed to overthrow the government of Russia because of what's happened in Ukraine and whether if it's necessary war or not. I mean, wow. It was a sight to see. The fact that US even got intelligence attention, it was a real threat as well. It was actually stunning what was going on. And in some ways as well, you could say, well, Vladimir Putin being overthrown would be amazing. Good for Russia and all that sort of thing as well. Keep in mind the leader of the Wagner Group, Mr. Sorokin, is no better than Putin in many ways as well. He's still a murderer. He's still a terrorist. He still committed crimes. So he'd be, if anything, just as bad, maybe even worse, Putin in many ways as well. But the scenes we saw Saturday and Friday evening were just astonishing. As well, the Wagner Group on the move, Putin feel like a threat to his power, then sort of trying to get criminal charges for the Wagner Group, then dropping them, then opening up again, then dropping them. Putin has he's been showing real weakness recently. He doesn't feel like he has authority now. He's been out in the crowd recently, in a part of Russia, you may have seen on state TV, to sort of show the image that actually the people were with him on this. And he's obviously got to show that image. But nevertheless as well, Charlie, I mean, goodness me, the events of the last week shows that there's still uncertainty about what's happened with the Wagner Group, and that Putin doesn't necessarily have the holding power that we think he has. Is this the beginning of the end of Vladimir Putin? That's where we're really thinking now after the recent event. Is this the end of Vladimir Putin? I saw one article saying everyone loses in this scenario, and actually, could be right, and they could well be right in this case.
Yeah, just looking at the news there, Ukraine ready for challenges posed by Russia after the Zaporizhzhia drill, and there's reports of they've been told that they can't fight. I mean, it's absolutely huge. This is a huge development in the war in Ukraine right now for, well, both sides, really. Please comment down below what you make to the current war in Ukraine. Moving on now to the big question, a return to a favourite segment of the show. This is the Tonight Show podcast live on YouTube with me, Charlie, and Zach tonight, discussing the big question. Now, a lot of people have been asking me about this. This is a very, very important thing that has been announced quite recently, I think a couple of months ago, but we will cover this on the show tonight. The big question is about, were smart motorways always a failure in the first place? Now, the UK government have announced that they're going to stop rolling out new smart motorways. Now, obviously, these roads, the government said they were designed to make motorways safer, but we know that they don't actually do anything to stop accidents occurring and stuff like that. And actually, smart motorways, in my opinion, actually make roads more dangerous as well, as we're going to see here from what was announced by the UK government. And it's just, I mean, what was that about? Well, let's have a look here at what the government's plan was. So back in April, Rishi Sunak announced this. I'm going to get Zach's take on this in a minute as well to see what he thinks about the announcement. So Rishi Sunak scrapped smart motorways back in April. The building of new smart motorways has been cancelled, according to Rishi Sunak, acknowledged concerns planned for safety. 14 planned smart motorways, including 11 that had already been paused and 3 earmarked for construction, were removed from the government road building plans, given financial pressures in recognition of a lack of public trust. Campaigners welcome the move, but demand the government now make the return of hard shoulder existing conversions. The department said the construction of these schemes would have cost more than £1 billion by the construction of 2 stretches of smart motorway at junction 6 to 8 of the M56 and 21A to 26 of the M6 will continue as long as they are already more than 3/4 complete. Existing stretches will remain subjected to safety refit, so they are more than 150 more emergency places coming back. Basically, okay. Sunak did fail to ban them last summer during his Tory leadership bid. But what we have seen on smart motorways is variable speed limits being used, saying accident occurs, we go down to 50 miles an hour, then sometimes nothing's there. You go up to 70 miles an hour again. You go down to 40 miles an hour. You can, and then you see these X's appear, lane closure, when sometimes roadworks there. It causes motorists to have panics. It causes them headaches at times. Well, how do you know what's going on if there's nothing there? Zach, do you think smart motorways were a failure from the beginning, and do you think the government was right to scrap them in the end?
I mean, the idea of smart motorways in the beginning, I think, was reasonable as well. I think the idea of smart motorways, like to control your speed limits, turn some lanes into hard shoulders, to sort of extend the flow of traffic, and then variable speed limits was probably a good idea. Like, if you think about it as an idea, it probably was reasonable and sounded interesting, and was a good way to manage traffic and everything like that as well. I think the problem what we've had here is that I'm afraid to say is that its implementation and execution has been worse than the idea itself. It's been poorly executed. It's caused many more incidents than it's intended to cause, and it's caused accidents, deaths, and misery as well for drivers, because it leads to a confusing system, it leads to more accidents, it leads to more dangerous driving as well, when it's supposed to do the opposite. I mean, smart motorways can be good when they're implemented well, but what we've seen over the last few years is a smart motorways that have been terribly implemented. So they're actually not going to be implemented now in the near foreseeable future. If you currently have a smart motorway, you still have that smart motorway. That's not going to change. But but nevertheless, anyway, any new smart ways, motorways is no longer happening. You just got the current light instead, and I can understand it from their perspective, because like the idea is good, but the execution itself has been bad as well, and yeah, it's just not been really that implemented well and executed well in that terms. Which I guess in some ways you could say it's a bit of a shame that, you know, a good idea has turned into bad execution, but it had to stop at some point, given the continuous issues and problems that we've been having with smart motorways. Unfortunately, like I said, it's a good idea in general, but it's a terrible idea as well, in terms of what like the execution of that and the consequences of what it's caused. It's unfortunate, but yeah, it's had to happen. But this end has had to happen as well. Yes, that's unfortunate, that part. By the way, Charlie, I hope you don't mind. I'm going to switch to my phone if that's okay, just because I've noticed my browser is crashing every
Yeah, no, that is fine.
20 minutes, something like that. So I'm going to switch to my phone so that my browser don't stop crashing. And I will remain my browser, but I'm just going to switch to my phone feed instead. So I'm going to enter, and then I'm going to come out of here as well. I'll be on here still. Just do a quick switcheroo, and I'll be back.
Yeah, no, that's fine. My friend Zach will be back shortly, as he is switching over to another device after having some technical issues. Oh, we got Zach actually back.
Yeah, there we go.
Even
like
quicker,
that.
even quicker than I expected there. But yeah, I have to say, smart motorways are actually a very, very serious issue that we have to address in this country. So yeah, that's all I can say. But moving on now to the sports news, we're going to start off by talking about football. And Zach, lots of Premier League action and new transfers for Tottenham, Manchester United and Arsenal.
Yeah, let's start off with some of the news that we've talked about. We have now confirmed. So, James Maddison, my old bestie from Leicester, as you could probably understand as well, Leicester City, now relegated the rest of Leicester City in the Championship. James Maddison, probably one of my favourite players from the club, unsurprisingly has decided to move and leave the club, obviously to do something to remain in Premier League football. His future career path depended on either Tottenham or Newcastle. He chose Tottenham. Well, it was a good Tottenham managed to get in their agents in. James managed to get his agent to reach an agreement. Is 50 million pounds, as well as Leicester call it an undisclosed fee, but we understand it's about 50 million. But yeah, James Maddison, new signing for Tottenham Hotspur as well. That's one of the big signings ready for Tottenham there. It looks like they're on their way to get a goalkeeper as well, potentially on its way, because I think Hugo Lloris is as well as out. We don't know about the future of Harry Kane at the moment. There's some rumours going around that potentially Bayern Munich is very interested as well in Harry Kane. There was apparently even a Saudi club that's probably interested in Harry Kane as well, given the fact that Saudis have been very busy in this market as well. It's, I mean, quite something to see the Saudis now on the action, literally buying football and all that sort of thing. 40 million, I should say, as well, by the way, for James Maddison as well. He's going to now signed for Tottenham. He's done a lot of promo today as well. We can see his son and everything like that as well, all in Tottenham gear. I have to say, it's a good signing from Spurs. You can't deny that as well. It's good. It's a really good signing. James Maddison is probably one of the only decent players, I think, as well, that you know, I think Leicester had at the end of the season before they got relegated as well. Now, on one hand, obviously they're getting James Maddison. On the other, Tottenham Hotspur are going to look set to lose Harry Winks. It looks like he's going to be actually going to go off to Leicester as well. for a £10 million signing. And it looks like as well that Connor Cody is also another one that could be on its way out from Everton on the way to Leicester as well. So that's two signings in Cody and Harry Winks. Interesting signings, I think, as well. Would they be good replacing Maddison? I'm not sure, really. They're sort of older and sort of had more, sort of longer as well in many ways as well. But yeah, Winks and he's gone. They got Maddison in. They might even get Mickey van de Ven as well. Tottenham, they've opened talks yesterday with him as well. Let's talk about Manchester United. This is one of the other big news that they have finally looked like from reporting that they've finally got Mason Mount. There was a sticking point over price and value of Mason Mount. So they actually, Man United paused for a little bit their pursuit of Mason Mount. But they've come now, it looks like they're going to be agreeing Mason Mount for a £55 million transfer with £5 million additions as well. Mason Mount looks set to go from Chelsea to Manchester United. Chelsea also lost another player in Kai Havertz this week, going from Chelsea to Arsenal as well. Direct transfer there as well for a decent fee as well. But on the same hand as well, Arsenal's week's about to get better because they are now about to break the Premier League transfer record for Declan Rice. West Ham's probably the best player that you can imagine at the moment. After a fight over fees and whether Man City were about to enter the race, well, it looks like it's finally over. Declan Rice is about to probably complete in the next couple of days, maybe the end of this week potentially as well, a £105 million move from West Ham to Arsenal, making it the most expensive Premier League transfer in history. It's actually more expensive than when West Ham bought. When West Ham was last brought. That's just how expensive Declan Rice is. It's an incredible amount that he's been brought for as well. Just stunning, really, as well in terms of what Declan Rice is valued at as well. But with that money, West Ham are probably going to go for us now. I mean, Harvey Barnes is another one from Leicester that could go to West Ham. Linkage is there as well. But there can be a few targets on West Ham's sleeve, including Alex Scott, 19-year-old from Bristol City that could well be on its way to West Ham as well. A lot of transfer action is happening. We're about to get to the most dramatic point of it now, with Maddison confirmed to Spurs, Kai Havertz confirmed to Arsenal, and it looks like Declan Rice is on the way to Arsenal as well. A lot of transfer business over the summer at the moment now. My goodness. Premier League is breaking records at the moment in terms of signings and the values of them. Declan Rice to Arsenal will look like about to be confirmed in the next couple of days, Charlie.
Yeah, plenty of action there from the Premier League. Now it's time to talk about. There's a big echo now. I was going to say that. There's certainly a big echo. Yeah, no, that's fine. I was going to say that there, but moving on now to the motorsport, and Zach, race week is back for Formula One.
It is. We're in Austria this week as well, across the Red Bull Ring. It's sort of kind of like Red Bull's home race in many ways. Second home race, Austria, Red Bull Ring, sponsorship. It will be the Max Verstappen show this weekend in terms of crowd sizes and who's going to be turning up. It will be the Orange Army is going to be on their way to Austria. This weekend, no doubt about it. The grandstands will probably be packed full of Max Verstappen supporters on Friday, on Saturday, and Sunday. This weekend is sprint weekend as well. So we're going to have qualifying tomorrow at 4:00. We'll set the grid for Sunday's race as well. And then Saturday's sprint Saturday as well. The sprint shootout at 11 o'clock in the morning, which will set the grid for the sprint race as well, which gives you about 8 extra points on offer for the winner as well. That will be at 4:30. I think actually 3:30 in the afternoon as well. The sprint on Saturday, and then obviously the race itself is on at 2:00 on Sunday as well. That'll be the main event as well. Lots of action to look forward to in that one as well. Can Red Bull maintain their 100% win record in 2023? I think they're very favourites to do it. But can Aston Martin, can Mercedes start clawing back some pace? And is there signs of Ferrari potentially a little glimmer of hope for them after the season they've had so far, given the upgrades and the race pace they had in Canada? Are there signs that they could be improving a little bit as well? We do not know. But upgrades this weekend for McLaren, upgrades as well for Mercedes. A few teams doing upgrades. I'm looking forward to this weekend. I'm sadly going to be missing the race on Sunday, but I'm really looking forward to seeing what's ahead as well this weekend in terms of the action and actually potential race action. Weather as well don't look that too promising. There's rain forecast as well for Friday. There's rain forecast for Saturday. We could be in for another wet weekend, Charlie, of motor race action.
Oh, that'd be really cool. I'm sure a lot of people will be wanting a wet race in Austria. So that is all I can say on that one. Moving on now to the NASCAR Cup Series, which raced the Ali 400. That was the last meeting. And that Ross Chastain was the winner.
Yeah, Ross Chastain definitely the winner on that one at Nashville. A very good race, I have to say as well. Even got lots of quite green flag action, but it was very eventful overall. Obviously as well, it was a very good race, I have to say. But Ross Chastain, the main winner. There was a lot of action in the pack as well. Truex finished in second, Hamlin third, Chase Elliott fourth, Kyle Larson fifth. As well, William Byron sixth, Christopher seventh, Eric Jones eighth. Kyle Busch was in ninth position, and AJ Allmendinger 10th position as well. Good win for Ross Chastain. Some ballsy moves, I have to say, as well, to get to the front as well and win that race. As well, it was a good drive from Ross Chastain, very much showing his passion as well for his victory on when he crossed the line as well. I have to say, he really did show it, and I can understand how he felt, because for him, this is a long time for him, long time in the making for him as well, with what he's did. And yeah, he really showed that he felt like he really did put the effort into that one as well last Sunday as well. A really good result for him as well. But yeah, I mean, it's been a good weekend for Truex as well. I mean, one last race, finished second this race, that sets him up really well in terms of playoff potential as well. Yeah, so but he should be really happy with that on that as well. There's also the Xfinity Series race as well, which was chaotic, by the way. The Xfinity Series was chaotic. Caution after caution after caution after caution after caution. For most of the race, they really did struggle to go green flag. Lots of cautions. They really struggled as well. I actually watched that race in full. And it was AJ Allmendinger, who obviously he's not eligible for points because he runs in the Cup Series, that won that race. Right, Rinus Herbst was second, Sam Mayer third, Austin Hill fourth. Josh Berry was fifth, who, by the way, has been confirmed to replace Kevin Harvick in the number 4 car next year for the Cup Series. Congratulations to Josh Berry on that one. He'll be running full-time in the Cup Series. Joe Nemechek 6th, Dane Smith 7th, Daniel Henry 8th, Cole Custer 9th, and also in 10th position as well. Good race for Parker Retzlaff as well. Very good race for him in 10th position. I have to say credit to him on that one. It's a really good result as well. And in the Truck Series as well, I believe the Truck Series was running as well. It was Chase Hokar win that race ahead of Zane Smith as well. Third position was Nick Sanchez in that race. A very good one, good result for him in that term as well. Well done to him. Chase Ham was 4th, Brandon Curry's 5th as well. Chase Purdy 6th, Matt DiBenedetto 7th, Tyler Aitken was 8th, Brendan Rowe was 9th, and Josh Garcia was 10th as well. Good result for all of them as well. It was a very mixed field as well. And yeah, very good result. There was a couple of DNFs. Alan Lirel, Brandon Hull, Thompson, all DNF'd in that race because of wrecks and incidents as well. But it was I have to say, it was a very eventful weekend in Nashville. I think the package for the Xfinity side is very much suits, I think, the package for the cars, actually. Especially the Xfinity Series, when they were all slipping and sliding, struggling to keep it clean for most of the time as well. They really was struggling to keep, go several laps without caution as well. It was a very eventful race, you have to say, Charlie, in that respect for this Xfinity Series. Cup Series racing was very good as well. Moving ahead to this weekend, though, we've got a debutant because it's going to be the first ever race at the new Chicago Street Course. This is the replacement, I believe, for Road America. This year. They're not racing at Road America this year. Isn't it, with a race at Chicago? It's on a brand new temporary street course that's going to be used as well. It's it's a very interesting course, you have to say as well. It's 2.1 miles. It's in the city of Chicago, Illinois. As well, it's 3.4 kilometers. A very interesting setup because you have to say it's a weird sort of setup, this one, as well. And I'm going to try and find a photo of it as well.
We got the track map up for you here now,
there
guys.
It is. So it goes. Yeah, you can see the start finish line, if I'm correct saying, is there with that little red sign is as well. And it starts with a turn one, a little left, and then to the right. And so there's definitely some fast segments, and there's some sort of slower, sort of oval segments as well. That it's a bit of a best of both, really. It's a very bizarre street circuit, with a sort of elements of an oval, but actually it's designed as a street course as well. So yeah, it's interesting. It's quite unique, as well. It probably, we've seen the circuit on iRacing. I have to say it's interesting. There's some very narrow sections, there's a very fast sections as well. But it's the NASCAR Cup Series and Xfinity Series that'll be racing there this weekend as well. The Grant Park 220 is the race for the Cup Series. That's on Sunday. The Xfinity Series race as well. That's also it's significantly shorter, actually. It's called a Loop 121. It's significantly shorter, but that starts at 5 o'clock UK. 10 p.m. UK time on Saturday. And then on Sunday, obviously, it's the Cup Series race for the first time there as well. Will it return next year? Who knows? They might decide not to return to it. I don't know, as well. But the Cup Series race this weekend is on Sunday at 10:30 UK time as well. It's a significantly long race. But yeah, first time racing on the Chicago street course is certainly what to be looking forward to.
Yeah. Very, very interesting indeed in that one. Now it's time for a quick review of the Formula E race, which took place at Portland the other week. And we can confirm that Nick Cassidy won the race. It was his third win of the season, now a point behind Avalanche Andretti's Jake Dennis, who leads the championship fight. I mean, Zach, this race was very interesting, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was absolutely crazy. Just watching it back. Obviously, they raced on Portland, which was a new circuit for them. It's actually an actual proper circuit. It's not one of these like temporary street circuits that they race on. You normally see quite often. It is actually a proper circuit that they raced on, and it was actually absolutely crazy because of the course layout and because of the way they raced. It was bonkers, literally bonkers. Like, if I'm correct in saying, I saw a figure saying there was 400 overtakes in total. I don't know whether I'm reading that right or whatever, but there were so many overtakes in that race that it was insane. Honestly, it was just absolutely nuts. The race as well. It was pretty much. I honestly can't believe 403 overtaking moves throughout that Formula E race. That's how insane the race was as well. They were all close. It was like watching oval racing at times as well. Just incredible. But in the end, there's only one that could really win throughout that Formula E race as well, and it was Nick Cassidy that managed to get. I hopefully got the right driver, Nick Cassidy as well, managed to get ahead and win the race as well. He was the man that came up on top overall, and to win in Portland as well, and a well-deserved victory, I should say. Well, I had to say what was a complete and utterly bonkers race overall. It really was complete and utterly bonkers. From start to finish as well. Really fun overall race with everyone involved. Nick Cassidy, wow.
From 10th on the grid as well.
Yeah, he started 10th on the grid. He managed to go from 10th on the grid to win the race. It was completely and utterly nuts. He won the race by 0.2 of a second over Jake Dennis. This is how close they were running. The top 10, the whole field was like, oh, wow. I mean, just going through the pack, and they were honestly, some of them were like the top 10. Shall we put that was within like 4 or 5 seconds of each other?
Mm-hmm.
That's how close it was. The overall race, as well, it really was so close. I mean, 50-45, 5 seconds separated the top 10, 2 tenths separated the top 2. Nick Cassidy finished there. Jake Dennis, who got pole position. Unlucky for Jake Dennis, but fair praise. Nick Cassidy who raced through that field, and that was pretty easy to overtake on that race as well. It really was. Antonio Felix Costa was third. Mitch Evans was fourth. He started 20th position and finished in fourth position. Mitch Evans, and got the fastest lap as well. That's just unbelievable. Sebastian Bremy fifth. Max Günther sixth. Lucas Rassi seventh. Pascal Wehrlein 8th from 18th. Norberto 9th. Robin Flights 10th. Honestly, that race was totally and utterly bonkers to watch, with 403 overtakes as well. But look what this does to the standings, by the way, as well. This whole standings have completely changed, by the way, after that that race. And we have, I believe, if I'm correct in saying, Charlie, 4 rounds to go in the season. 4 rounds to go. 2 locations, 4 rounds. We got Rome on the 15th to 16th of July, and then a week later, as well. Is that? Oh, actually, yeah, London is twice, but I believe
we got a double header in Rome and London. Yeah,
so they're actually, if I'm correct in saying twice, they're done twice. London is done twice, but oh no, they're done from the same day. My bad. So we've got Rome on the 15th of July, so that's 2 weeks from today. And then 2 weeks later, they're finishing off in London, which will probably be an insane finale, by the way. It probably will be an insane finale as well. London at the Excel Centre, at Battersea Excel Centre as well. And then on the 14th, 15th, 16th, Rome for a double header there. 4 rounds, 2 locations to go. The title is in the hands of either Nick Cassidy or Jake Dennis, I think, as well. Pascal Wehrlein, who's been leading all season, has fallen behind now with some more than disappointing results, I think, as well, in many ways. But yeah, it's between Nick Cassidy and Jake Dennis now, I think, for the point standings as well. And if you actually look at the standings as well, they are 1 point separated. Jake Dennis ahead of Nick Cassidy, 1 point. And with Pascal Wehrlein in third position as well, 138. He's still got a chance to fight his way back, Pascal Wehrlein, but he's not had good points runs recently as well. Nick Cassidy has gone P3, P2, P2, P2 in the last several races. Jake Dennis's consistency is showing, and that could provide crucial when deciding the championship later in the season. Well, this title is far from over with 4 races to go, and with just 2 locations left, it's all to play for, I think. All to play for.
It's going to be interesting. And all I can say, Stoffel Van Dorn, last year's champion, where is he? 11th on 42 points. So not ideal there for the DS Penske. He's not had a great season at the team at all, I'm honest. So
no.
Yeah, that's all I can say. Right, now that is the end there of the motorsport segment. So yeah, all I can say is it's very, very interesting. And now we're going to move on and talk about press preview now. I'm going to be talking on this segment about drink driving tonight. Not press preview, sorry, Conversation Street. That's the newspapers. I just want to say, that is the newspapers. Conversation Street. We're talking about drink driving now because I want to cover this. Now, drink driving has become a big, big problem in this country. And if not the world, if you go to America, you have to walk in a straight line. But here you get a breathalyzer. And it's always about time that we talk about why drink driving is actually very bad for you. Now, the UK, drink driving is bad. Now, I want to quickly mention this. It's very, very important because a Mercedes driver from Yates has apparently been caught drink driving. Now, I want to mention this because this is very, very important. Because drink driving is something bad, and I'm sure Zach will give his take on why drink driving is bad, and also the efforts in which we should improve it as well. But here is the article here. Now, a Mercedes driver was caught. James Weston, aged 32, from Maidstone Yates, was caught driving a white Mercedes Sprinter van. Oh, there we go. A Mercedes Sprinter van, and it was on the 30th of April. He had 55 micrograms of alcohol in 100 millilitres of breath. The legal limit is 35. Weston pleaded guilty on Tuesday, June the 20th, at Bristol's Magistrates Court. He was fined £300, ordered to pay a surcharge to fund victims or victim services of £120 and cost £85 across the Crown Prosecution Court. Is banned driving for 16 months. His driving ban reduced by 16 weeks if a drink drive rehabilitation course is complete. Now, what's the drink drive limit in England? In England, Wales, Northern Ireland, drink driving alcohol limit the driver 80 milligrams per 100 millilitres of the blood limit 35 micrograms 100 millilitres, the breath limit 107 millilitres of urine, the urine limit. How alcohol affects driving. Many functions we depend on drive safety and effectively the brain drink. The brain takes longer to process and receive messages from the eye. Processing information becomes more difficult. Instructions to bodies muscles are delayed, resulting in a much slower reaction time. So, yeah, I have to say, I think that is a concern. Zach, what do you make to this? Because, I mean, drink driving is a naughty one for many people. And I have to say, if you're caught, this could be seriously, you could lose your license.
Oh, you can not only lose your license, Charlie, but you can lose your, you can go to jail pretty much, can't you? So, yeah, it'll be no good in that part of me. Yeah, well, I mean, the simple thing is, Charlie, don't drink drive. It's just like as simple as that. I don't know even why people even decide to do that sort of thing as well, but the consequences can be quite severe, and I'm surprised already we don't do this straight line stuff like they do in the United States, where you just walk in a straight line and just tell whether you're drunk or not and whether the concentration is good or not. I'm surprised they haven't already implemented it, because matter of fact is, I think, it's an easy way to tell whether someone's drunk. I mean, yeah, you can smell this sort of whether someone was drunk or not. I mean, literally by the way they smell and everything like that, and the breath and like. But also as well, I think in different instances as well, though, the people don't seem to have the sense of how drink driving affects not just you, your whole career, as well, and especially others who actually are affected by this, by people crashing into their cars into them and losing their families and that sort of thing as well. Drink driving affects you, it affects everyone else, and I don't know why people do it. So the penalty system as it is, for drink driving is pretty severe. I'd like to see those implementations of the way you walk in a straight line, where you can see where you can walk in a straight line. I mean, that's a good indication. If you fail that, then you shouldn't be driving. Pretty simple. Obviously, you do the breath test and all that sort of thing. That's a good indication as well. But it's not always like visual evidence that someone, someone's drunk and all that sort of thing as well. In many ways. So I think as well, showing it visibly that you can't properly drive and you're not capable of doing something as well, then yeah, it's a very big issue as well. I think we need to sort of add that system in many ways as well to prove that you're not only you actually by on the limits drunk, but you're actually visibly drunk as well.
It's horrible, and I'm going to play for you a quick little video of what happens when it goes all wrong and the cops do attempt to catch you. It is honestly, it is a very, very serious time. This is a video that was taken from This Cop Life, which is a program that's on Really TV. It shows you police arresting a dangerous driver with a huge amount of alcohol in his blood. Do be warned, this does contain distressing scenes.
The town.
They're walking towards Star Hill now.
Yeah, obviously, there's way campus control.
It's a group of three being absolute idiots. in the centre of the high street, down the middle of the road. Cameras won't be able to listen.
Within minutes, the CCTV control room have an update.
I wonder if that's the dude that was sick who's been turned out for a taxi. Are they sure it's the same frame?
4-2, just confirm 100% the same set of lads. Yes, sure, he's on the move, so I'll try and let you know where it goes.
Liana and Danny are also responding to the incident.
Males driving. I guarantee someone will be arrested every day in the county somewhere for drink driving. It's just an ongoing issue and a major problem.
Cassie and Ryan are first to find the suspected drink driver.
4-2, directly behind this vehicle with one motorbike in front. It's almost collided with a curb, central res.
More than 200 people die every year in the UK in a drink drive related crash.
It's still collided almost again with another central res. We got any other assets available, please?
To avoid the risk of a pursuit, Ryan and Cassie want to get another police car in front of the suspected drink driver before they try and stop the vehicle.
4-2, this vehicle's still swerving. It's a near side indication. It's going to be next to White Lion once we're away from the High Street entrance exit.
With another police car now travelling in convoy, the team move to block the driver in.
Yeah, 4-2, this vehicle hasn't stopped for me. I've activated blue lights and sirens, and it's not stopped. It's still continuing, stand by.
In a bit.
Right, we need to just blow into that mouthpiece for us. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going.
The legal limit when driving is 35 micrograms of alcohol per 100 millilitres of breath.
Okay, mate, you've blown 104 at the roadside, all right? Means you're nearly triple the limit. Okay, so because of that, you're de-arrested for driving whilst unfit, but you're now arrested. The time is 43 minutes past midnight for driving whilst over the specified breath alcohol limit, all right?
It doesn't matter what job you do. You could turn around and tell us that you work for the royal family, or you could turn around and say that you're a celebrity. It does not matter. If you're drink driving, there's only one way that's going, that's into custody. You all right? I've got you. Yeah, I've got you.
The driver provides an evidential breath test in custody, which shows he is still over double the drink drive limit.
He will be staying here overnight. He'll need to sober up before he's released in the morning, and then it will go from there. It will be in the hands of the court as to what they decide might happen.
Come on, mate.
At court, a man pleaded guilty to drink driving. He was given a 14-month driving ban and had to pay a total of £442 in fines and court costs.
Wow. That is the example. I mean, someone being sick in a car, in a taxi, and then going off in a car, potentially, as you said, triple the drink drive limit that guy was driving. I mean, that was horrendous, wasn't it?
It's nuts. 104. The legal limit's 35, and he's doing it 104. 3 times the limit. Completely and utterly insane, really. 4 times the limit, to be fair. It's just completely and utterly insane, really. That's someone who resorted that to being sad and doing that measure. Yeah, it's not great, is it? And it just shows you how stupid these people are for even doing that sort of thing and putting everyone's lives at risk by doing that. It's really bad driving, it's bad motoring, and these people should be locked up and deserve to be so.
Absolutely horrible. And that's the programme you can watch called This Cop Life on Really TV. Now it's time for press preview. We've got a big amount of quite a few papers to reveal for Friday. Now all of the papers have been released, from what I understand. There might be some more coming in. The Guardian goes, Tories with bitter legal feud after Rwanda policy is unlawful. Financial Times goes, ECB hawks take aggressive stance on rates after UK's inflation's wake-up call. Daily Express goes for Rishi's radical plan to fix NHS once and for all. The I newspaper goes mortgage deals hiked again as big six banks raise their prices. The Daily Star goes for Brainiacs take a day off work from saving the world and making up baffling formulas for the perfect cup of tea. Boffin's brains explode. Is
Wow.
that headline Daily Star? The Independent goes for was this the day the Tories lost the election? Bombshell won. Humiliation for the Prime Minister. As flagship Rwanda stop the boats policy is unlawful. And Bombshell 2, shamming of ex-PMs condemned disturbing attacks on democracy by Boris allies. In that one there. And Metro goes for, oh, here we go. This is a cool headline, interesting headline. Grounded hog day for Rishi. It sounds like watching
Grounded Hog Day.
Grounded Hog Day, yes. Migrant fights halted yet, and it goes on with we will peel over. It was basically over the migrant crisis. It sounds like Rishi Sunak has watched that movie starring Bill Murray called Groundhog Day in that regards there. I mean, Zach, what do you make to the latest newspaper headlines?
Oh, interesting. Right, let's do the headline first from The Guardian. Tory risk bitter legal feud after Rwanda policy is ruled unlawful. So the main news of the day, I think, for this one is quite clear for The Guardian's point of view that the Court of Appeals ruled 2-1 today that they found the policy of sending migrants, asylum seekers and refugees to the third part of the country, such as Rwanda, not all country, but obviously Rwanda as a country, unlawful, saying that Rwanda hasn't met all the sort of necessary safety and human rights requirements to be deemed a safe third country. That was a 2-1 ruling. We'll see the Lord Judge as well dissenting from that ruling. As well, Labour says Sunak stopped the blow, but it's unravelling after verdict. It probably is in some ways, if you think about it. I mean, well, so the bitter illegal battle of the government's flagship immigration policy reached new heights after Downing Street incident which fight to overturn a ruling that sending refugees to Rwanda was unlawful. Obviously, the judge ruled that in favour of the people that are bringing the appeal as well. The Prime Minister was quick to announce to appeal against the decision. He said Rwanda was a safe country for asylum seekers to have claim process, and said the court had agreed with this. Well, maybe the High Court, but not the Court of Appeal. So Braverman came up with quite the strongest comments by saying that they claim that the ruling of the system is rigged against the British people. Well, that's quite populist language as well. So yeah, I at the end of the day, I still think this is a possibility, a good possibility, that this ruling is going to go to the Supreme Court and get overturned at the Supreme Court, and they're going to rule in favour of it. But nevertheless, this is a bit of a blow to the government. That once again they've had to delay their Rwanda policy as well. And quite frankly, I do find this some of the Rwanda a bit of an inhumane country to send it to. I mean, if you're going to send it to a third country, you don't understand why they want to do that. Maybe do somewhere a little better than Rwanda, for example. Don't do Uganda. Let's just say that. If you're gay and you get deported to Uganda, you probably get death penalty from just by that alone. But yeah, that's one of the main storylines that obviously the Guardian's going with. The Financial Times go for a bit of a banking story. They're going for the European Central Bank. Court takes aggressive stance on rates after UK's inflation wake-up call. Obviously, the fact that the banks obviously keep an eye on the situation in other countries. Obviously, the European Central Bank is really keeping an eye out as well on the interest rates here as well, and then using it to influence as well. Germany's high price reforms the case as well, that there needs to be an aggressive rate on interest rates as well. But then against Spain at the same time, if you have noticed, Spain is running a little bit differently. Now their interest rates have fallen below 2% as well. But it has convinced policymakers of the European Central Bank to maintain their aggressive stance on raising interest rates to avoid being accused of failing to contain price pressures and trying to stop, obviously, inflation increasing as well. With some of them saying that they've seen what happened in the UK, they want the same thing happen to us, as well in the European Central Bank. As well, Germany's 6.8%. 1.6% for Spain. So there is some economical choices here that forces forces inflation to be high. As well, Spain's obviously managing that better than, say, Germany in some ways, which is really good to see as well. But Eurozone inflation is expected to drop to 5.6%, and the data for that is going to drop tomorrow as well. But obviously, food prices looks like it now peaked as well. Energy and food prices are expected to drop. So again, there's a tricky balance there for the European Central Bank to deal with here. With obviously Spain is falling their interest, and obviously their inflation rate's falling below, but Germany's still high. So it looks like the measure of the European Central Bank needs to go aggressive interest rates and raise it because of the high inflation is still too high in their opinion as well, which is what they're basing it on. The Daily Express goes for Rishi's radical plan to fix NHS once for all. This is the NHS long-term plan as well. I'm just
cool. I hope you can still hear me. But yeah, Rishi's long-term plan to fix the NHS. This is a long-term sort of area where they want to get the doctors, the nurses in, and all that sort of thing as well. They want to get 300,000 extra nurses, doctors, and other health recruited over, say, the next decade or 30 years. As well, but this is sort of the plan that sort of Labour sort of wanted to release as well. Been suggesting, but it looks like the Tories are going to copycat that as well. This is a way to get doctors in. Medical places in universities are probably going to increase. Medical school as well. More training of British workers as well, doctors and nurses. That's what part of the plan, as I understand it. They sound good. Whether they're going to be realistic or not is going to be yet to be seen as well. Who knows? In many ways, it'll be very interesting to see about that as well. The eye goes for mortgage deals hiked again as big six banks raise their prices as well. Mortgage snowball effect as lenders try to avoid offering cheapest deals. All major UK high street banks increased their cheapest fixed rate to average 6.7%. This is also the borrowing rate as well. So it just shows that the mortgage crisis is still continuing as well, even after the measures that the Chancellor announced last week in terms of lenders and everything like that, and the repossession sort of freeze and everything like that as well. The markets remain volatile, and the costs is still increasing. 6.37% for a year for short-term borrowing is incredibly worrying in terms of the government costs for borrowing and managing to get physical room, but also people on mortgaging their money. It's an extra £4,000 a year for them, for some of them as well. And the mortgage lenders as well are, because they need to raise their profits, they're trying to sort of reduce the cheap deals and suggest withdrawal deals and rates as well to raise their prices. And they're being passed on to the customer. They can't keep up with surges in demand as well. It needs to be. So it's causing a concertina effect. And it's really coming costly as well in the mortgage market for a lot of people in many ways. And it's very worrying to see that aspect as well. So excuse me, just losing my voice a little bit there. But moving on to the Daily Star with a very bizarre front cover in many ways as well. I have to say it's really odd. It's thoroughly odd.
Well, I've just changed to blue tick, so I do apologize if I do sort of lost my sound for a little bit there. But they've gone for Boffin's brains explode. Brainiacs take a day off from saving the world and make up baffling formulas for the perfect cup of tea. Boffins who hate the Daily Star, calling them Boffins, have spurred thousands of pounds being the Bin the Boffin campaign at our London HQ. But it's a battle that massive forehead boffins just can't win, as our boffins in our third favourite world in the world. Boffins are still trying to take over the world. The Daily Star is making sure that doesn't happen. This is the fight of the century that we're really looking forward to, isn't it, Charlie? It really is the fight of the century as well. Go Boffins, I'd say, on that one. Oh, absolutely incredible. The Independent go for a different front cover. They go for, was this the day the Tories lost the election? Probably not. There's probably days before that I think they lost the election. But still mention this story anyway as well.
I think we should cover the top one as well, because I just want to
Bombshell
say
one,
quickly, the France
ahead.
riots, there was an 18-year-old the other day. Apparently a police executed a teenager. I saw the scenes of this the other day, and I have to say this was a horrifying development in France.
Yeah, obviously the issue of policemen brutally using their people for unlawful arrests and, well, not unlawful arrests, but the methods to deal with someone, I'm afraid, is spreading to France now. A fatal police shooting happened in Paris. I think it was a young person as well. Someone got unnecessarily shot. Obviously, the public have reacted and seen what they've seen. They've taken none of it. They've started riots in the streets and everything like that as well. 40,000 officers was deployed today to control the protest, but there's been some nasty protests overnight. Cars set alight, buildings set alight as well, riots in the streets. The French public have had enough and reacted so much as saw. But like I said as well, let's go back to the main headline. Was the day Tories lost the election? I don't think so. At the moment, I think it was other days when they lost the election. But bombshell none. Humiliation for Prime Minister Miranda stop votes policies were unlawful. And also they're going for bombshell 2. Shaming of ex-MPs as MP condemned disturbing attacking democracy by Boris Eyes. That also, obviously that's on the Metro as well. But let's deal with the second one as well. I'll finish off with here. The Privilege Committee released another report today. This is sort of a special report, which dealt with the attacks that they have been had based on their Privilege Committee report as well. There were some of the Boris allies that were defending Boris, the former Prime Minister, were calling the committee a kangaroo court, a witch hunt. Just that MPs who voted for the report's recommendations should get deselected and kicked out of Parliament. It's a very unparliamentary stuff, attacking the committee. The committee itself have done a report into their attacks, have recommended, well, not recommended, but asked the House whether they would accept their special report and whether, there would be a matter of privilege that could be raised that could get permission from the Speaker to censure the MPs involved. There's been a few named in there: Jacob Rees-Mogg, Nadine Dorries, Mark Jenkinson, Priti Patel, Andrew Jenkins. All that lot have been named in the report for their tweets and social media comments that they've said on the airwaves, on TV, as well. I think there's legitimacy for free speech of these committees, Charlie, as well, and criticise the committee for their actual content for report. But calling it a kangaroo court, witch hunt, is certainly unparliamentary in this day.
I think we know who was talking about that the other day.
Witch hunt. Rees-Mogg, Simon Clarke, Andrew Jenkins, obviously Brendan Clark-Smith, all that sort as well, attacking the committee. I just think they could do it in a way that actually looks like they're good in conduct. I mean, Michael Gove didn't agree with the report's recommendations and said it was too harsh, but actually he abstained, but he didn't go around on television saying it was a kangaroo court. He actually said he respected the committee for what the decision they reached as well. And that's a good, legitimate way to criticise the committee. You don't have to agree with it, but that was a good, legitimate way for Michael Gove to criticise the committee in some way. He didn't go around calling it kangaroo court. He just disagreed with the conclusions. I think he handled it respectfully. And I obviously didn't agree with what he said, but he handled it respectfully and did it well. If you're going to at least criticise the committee, at least do it in the Michael Gove fashion, not the Brendan Clark-Smith, Priti Patel, Nadine Dorries, Jacob Rees-Mogg sort of thing. It's appalling in many ways, and I just think it's really, really bad action. But obviously we've done the Metro pretty much grounded hot day for Richie. Good headline anyways. But that is the papers, Charlie, for the 30th of June tomorrow, 2023.
Yeah, that's the final newspaper review of June, and that is unfortunately all we have time for the Tonight Show podcast. Unfortunately, my friend Zach will be unavailable for the next week or so, as he's going to be going away. So I will be back next week, fronting the show So yes, all I can say
Not
is,
gone
guys,
forever, Charlie.
Yeah, all I-
Yeah, obviously just to clarify as well. Obviously, just in case anyone knows, I'm actually going away next Thursday. I'm off away for about a week and a couple of days, so I'll probably miss the next 2 editions of the obviously of the show, Charlie. As well, I'm not gone forever. I'll be back after a couple of weeks. I will be back, but just for the next couple of weeks, I'll be away. I'll be joining the Welsh Sea. Hopefully, there's no sewage in it and all that sort of thing. But I'll be on a nice caravan site overlooking the Welsh Sea as well, and taking in the Welsh environment. So yeah, I'll be taking a little bit of time away on holiday, just relaxing. But obviously, as you said, Charlie, the show's going to go on with you. I'll probably, obviously, I won't be able to join because I'll be probably reliant on mobile data, so and I don't want to use too much of that up. But yeah, I'm off for the next couple of shows. But then hopefully we commencing 20th on something July, 20th, 21st July, 22nd. I'll be back I'll be doing the shows.
Yeah. And make sure there's no train strikes for the weekend as well. All I can say.
I don't think there is, thankfully. Thankfully there isn't. I don't think there is as well, which is good to see.
Yeah, concert. Obviously, to all the music fans out there is concerts. We had Glastonbury the other week as well. I know my friend Zach is off to a concert at the weekend as well. So I wish him the best luck. I wish anyone luck if you're going to a concert. We know Craig David's doing his TS5 sets around the country as well. I hope to head to one of them later in the year as well. And yeah, that's something on my list. But thanks so much for watching, everyone. Take care. And I'll see you next week for another edition of the Ton Up Show podcast. Take care. And we'll see you next time. Good night.